It's time to bring in my analyst tonight, the journalist and Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance Ikokwu. Good to see you and thanks for your time. Not too good a story, not too good a time as Africans. It would seem as if we've been talking about this. You're listening to Professor Westcott and, of course, Ambassador Achibongo. Westcott said, well, it's a contagion and countries around such countries should be worried. First, give us a sense of how the news woke you up this morning.
I mean, I saw it early in the morning and I was a bit surprised. I wasn't sure if it was fake news, but then later people started sending messages and then I realized that this was really happening. And so later in the afternoon, I began to reach out to people I know across Africa. I was speaking to people in Equatorial Guinea because this country is in the Central African region. Equatorial Guinea is part of Central Africa. There is Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Congo, Cameroon, Chad, Central African Republic as well. I also spoke to someone in Gabon as well, you know, to get a feel of what was going on ground. So what we are seeing, or what I gathered, is that there are two major schools of thought, or two planks of views and opinions. There is one that belongs to the elites and government officials and maybe some part of civil society, the well-off, and then there is one that belongs to the common man. And so you would see the African Union message, you know, statement on this. It talks about condemning the coup, and then it says they have to give priority to peaceful political avenues and a rapid return to democratic constitutional order, restoring democracy. But when you talk to the ordinary people, they're like, we're not feeling that way. So the AU or the government calls it a coup, the ordinary people call it a revolution. That's the way they are seeing it. And then I ask, why are you seeing this as a revolution? They said, because this is the only tool that we have to change a government that has been in power forever. As everybody has rightly said, more than 50 years, one family running the country. And then I push further. So if it turns out that the military government doesn't work out, becomes a disaster, and they're like, we're going to take our chance. We think this is a historic time in our country. So there's so many opinions, and I have a few here. You know, someone says, I woke up and I was so glad. I felt like a bird had been let out of a cage. This is someone from Gabon talking. And then she goes on to say, we are feeling like we're getting a stop to being free, an avenue to being free from dictatorship and France. The Bongo family is France. Oh yeah. The Bongo family is working for the interests of France. It feels like a shadow has been lifted and we feel like we have hope now. So they're talking about hope. At least let this family go. I'm glad that the ambassador mentioned 2019 when there was an attempted coup and France intervened. And then he's still talking about the possibility of France intervening this time. I think France is hearing loud and clear. They are aware of what is going on across their former colonies. And by the way, this Bongo belongs to that school of thought of France-Afrique, you know, a system and a philosophy that gives France, you know, the leeway to pillage and abuse, you know, the former colonies unchecked. And so people are not having it anymore. And so you have really, you know, different planks of opinion. So you have also the internet. I'm talking about the impact of the internet on this. People have access to information and communication has been democratized, so they're able to talk to one another, they're able to see and analyze for themselves. And France itself also, they've had a revolution, so they understand what is going on. They had their own revolution in the 1700s, and during that time, they abolished the monarchy, they pulled down the feudal system, and there was a dramatic change in the political landscape because they decided that political power, the way it's managed, has to be changed between the governed and those that are governing them. And ordinary Africans will tell you this is what is happening today in Africa.
And if you say this looks like, as some of them have said, it looks like a revolution, and a revolution also against its former colonial power or masters, what else can Africa, you know, African leaders, because we talked about AU, isn't AU also aware of what this is about? If you were able to as a journalist, glean from some of these people around in the country, and this is what they're saying, shouldn't the rest of the continent be also having a conversation as to what they can do to get a genuine democratic, genuine democracy in these countries?
You're correct. They should be having a conversation, but is that conversation going to be sincere? Are they going to be sincere about the problems and what needs to be addressed? Obviously, there seems to be a disconnect between those at the top and those at the bottom. Like this ambassador is talking as if they live outside of reality. You also saw the video of Bongo himself asking people to make noise. The man obviously is not aware of what is going on around him. He lives outside of reality. He lives in a bubble because he thinks that the people will go out there and fight for him, and that is not going to happen. So the African leaders, whether it's those in AU, not even leaders, people call them rulers this time around because they are ruling, and they are using the instruments of state as a tool to oppress people. In many states, not countries, not all countries, but this is, ongoing because there are commonalities. The drivers of this unrest are the same or similar. So you talk about social inequality, you talk about economic decline, sometimes not of the making of the leaders, but if you have nothing to offer, government is about solution. If you cannot solve problems, then give way. Don't ask for a third term. Ask for an extension of government when you're failed, you're underperforming, and you should definitely give chance to other people. So there is a conversation to be had. There is also a generational gap. A lot of our fathers, are wedded and tied to, stuck in the past with former allies. Young Africans are not having that. A lot of these people have the internet. They've traveled abroad, they lived abroad, they see people abroad as, their counterparts and mates. They're not afraid of them. And so they're thinking, yes, we can definitely take our destinies into our hands. Why can we not do these same things in those countries in Africa? So that is what is going on. And
lastly here, if this is about the elections and democracy, is it possible for the coup leaders to have a better transition? Because sometimes the same leaders, as we've seen on the continent, metamorphose into sit-tight leaders, and the whole euphoria goes again up in a bubble.
Exactly, you're very correct. I asked that question because it happened in Zimbabwe when Mugabe fell. His vice president took over, and the man turned out to be the same thing. And I was asking people in Gabon, what if these military rulers turn out to be actually a problem, another set of problem? I hear that the leader of the coup is the president's cousin, so he's still in the family. And people are like, at least let's get rid of that, and let's begin to see if we'll have a different future. At least let's have some hope. Like the ambassador said, they are tired of the family. Let's have some hope, and maybe we can open up the space and give people opportunity to change the country and to move it forward.
In moving forward, it's a fine place to say thank you, Dr. Constance Ikokwu.
You're welcome.
And that's it on tonight's edition of Arise Prime Time. Many thanks from all of us here. Do join us again tomorrow. Bye-bye.